Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Ishan Isaac with Ishan on air every Sunday, 6 p.m. and onward with the Legacy radio station, as well as on social media with YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and Instagram, IG Live. So I welcome to all of you all over the world, wherever you're watching me. And thanks for subscribing my YouTube channel as well, because this is an era of social media. And just a few weeks back, YouTube has become the largest media company, even beating Disney, and that is unheard of. So, definitely, I encourage all of you who have not been subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do and subscribe and share. With regards to some key information, let's just dive right into um, the war news, and then we'll discuss some other aspects of this war in terms of analysis. So, what to know about the Iran war today? Well, there's a lot that is going on because every day, every hour, this war is changing. But here is the recap. Uh, President Trump asked for 48-hour ceasefire, and Iran said no. Why? Because they have planned for this for 40 years, and President Trump and whoever advised him, that was a very ill advice. And if he did it on his own, then that was something as all smart people, intelligent people, and military analysts and former military journals are saying it's a miscalculation. And that's where Iran denies Trump's claim and requested ceasefire, calling it false and baseless. And even when they were approached again, they said, no, no 48-hour ceasefire, because they're hitting very hard as well. They're also getting a lot of damage within Tehran and various infrastructure. The bridge to Karg basically was destroyed. So Trump appeared on national TV and then also said Iran's war core strategic objectives are nearing completion, Trump says. And then Iran's foreign ministry, Donald Trump's claim that the country has asked for a ceasefire is, quote, false and baseless, unquote, Iranian state media reports. And then when they were approached again, and maybe perhaps through the mediation parties, including Pakistan and Egypt and Turkey, they perhaps were approached, and then they said no to ceasefire. On a Truth Social post, he is saying Iran's new regime president had made the request, but he didn't clarify who he was referring to, and that's President Trump. Then there are other aspects of this war in terms of in London, Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the UK will host a meeting with dozens of countries this week on the Strait of Hormuz. So, Strait of Hormuz, everyone knew, and Iran has said it for decades, that if they are attacked, they will shut down and use this as a chokehold. And that's where they have been in control of 20% of the world's oil that goes through Strait of Hormuz. So that was not something as a surprise. Everyone knew that this is a very narrow passage, and they will obviously allow whoever they want to allow, and maybe perhaps use a toll, which was something new and interesting this time. And they did that. And now, regardless of the claims that this administration is making, they have been unable to open this Strait of Hormuz. And then oil prices fell back down below $100, but then again, it may go up again. And this is where it's a very unshaky and unstable economy. And no economy can sustain this kind of pressure because of instability in supply chains and oil prices, food supply chain issues that may happen. Hopefully not, but who knows. And then with regards to now, countries are being asked that they rely on Strait of Hormuz for oil. President Trump is saying, quote, grab it and cherish it, unquote, as if they can just go and do whatever they want to do. No, that's not the case. And here, world is anxious to open the Strait of Hormuz while Trump and Iran trade threats. That's the top story from many news channels. And then domestically, there are some mega big supporters or right-wing commentators, ultra-conservative, who basically were the darlings of the neocons and the MAGA movement, and especially the Republicans, especially the hardcore Republicans, where Marjorie Taylor Greene has said this, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but she is really criticizing, especially the first paragraph. I would like to congratulate two-time congressional candidate loser Laura Loomer. She's being sarcastic here. MEGA foreign op Mark Levin, and neocon murdering psycho Senator Lindsey Graham for leading Republicans into slaughter going into midterms. And she goes on, and you can read all about it. So who is surprised? Well, some people are surprised because who would have thought Marjorie Taylor Greene would say something like this? But then she is not running for the office again. Trump fires Pam Bondi as Attorney General. So this is new. And then the Deputy Attorney General, who basically was his former attorney, who basically was the defensive attorney with regards to Trump's slew of criminal cases. He is now the interim attorney general. 10 days before Trump returned to office, and his name is Todd Blank. Todd said 10 days before returning to office, Blank said alongside him at his Mar-a-Lago estate. And he further, has been on record saying, quote, "The majority of the American people also agree that this case should not have been brought," unquote. Blank told the judge, citing the election results as a verdict of its own. So who in the right mind can say that because of elections, the legal cases can be decided because of election? Well, that's a political attorney or someone who basically would use politics. That's what Todd Blank said. And then he further said, quote, "The American voters got a chance to see and decide for themselves whether this was the kind of case that should have been brought," unquote. So then we should just close down and shut down all the criminal justice system and all the courts, and then let everyone run for office, and whoever the voters would decide, we should just forget about their criminal cases. That's the logical argument that Mr. Todd, who is now the acting attorney general, has made. A look at Todd Blank, the ex-Trump lawyer, who's the president's pick for acting attorney general. So let's see what happens in the coming days and weeks. Iran warns of more, quote, "crushing attacks." So they are, according to Trump, getting decimated. Their air defense is gone. If their air defense is gone, well, they're still using these drones. Kuwait oil refinery hit by drone attack as Trump threatens to strike Iran's bridges and power plants. And this is where, reported by Telegraph and even BBC, missiles launch from Iran towards Israel overnight. That's what IDF basically is saying. The Israeli Defense Forces says missiles were launched from Iran towards Israel last night. That was basically on Saturday. And then the IDF says the defense system were in operation overnight, quote, "to intercept the threat," unquote. A train station in Tel Aviv was damaged by shrapnel, according to Israeli military radio, the AFP news agency reports. And then there are so many attacks going on in Israel as well, because there's a mass censorship in place in Israel. So sometimes news reports of various attacks are not coming out of Israel. But then Fox News, I was surprised that they showed some attacks now, because there have been so many attacks deeper, even into central Tel Aviv, that no one would have ever thought that Israel could be hit hard like this. And what happened to the Iron Dome? Israel says it defined another launch of missiles from Iran, the 8th on Saturday. So they're still sending those missiles, whether they are, dozens or 15 or 20, or there was some commentator who was a former national security analyst or member in Israel. And I mentioned about him last week in the program, and he was arguing that, Iran before the war was saying we will launch 150 to 200 every day. So now they're launching 15, 20 every day. So it's not working. I mean, maybe a 5-year-old perhaps would use that as a great argument and maybe get convinced, but not adults and professionals are getting convinced on that argument. Iran's Revolutionary Guard claims it struck 2 U.S. Black Hawks helicopters, and then this search and rescue, where one pilot is still in their custody, allegedly, speaking in terms of the reports that are coming out. But yes, one pilot, Iran is showing, at least on social media, and that needs to be confirmed. But it seems like that pilot is in Iran's custody. And that's where the officials of this administration, they have no credibility. So no one knows how many people are in their custody. Buildings damaged in East Jerusalem. So this war is not stopping. So the Washington Post has reported, and on April 3rd and then April 4th, the first one was that U.S. That one rescued after U.S. fighter jet crash in Iran search ongoing for a crew member. Then they reported U.S. rescues missing crew member in Iran after fighting jet shot down. And remember, this was not an ordinary fighter jet. Even an ordinary fighter jet is a fighter jet, but this was F-15. And this is where they reported, where the Washington Post reported that yes, there's another person that another crew member that is still that search is going on. And this is the area where Iran said it's looking for U.S. aircraft crew member, and then they captured one. The last time a U.S. warplane was shot down by enemy fire in combat was an A-10 Thunderbolt II during the 2003 U.S. invasion of Iraq, said retired Air Force Brigadier General Houston Cantwell, a former F-16 fighter pilot. So incident marks the first known instance of an American crewed aircraft being brought down inside hostile territory since the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran began 5 weeks ago. This is developing news, and we'll keep an eye on it. U.S. and Iran race to find missing crew member from downed military plane, AP reported. And this is where further information came out with regards to this. And then the condition of the rescued person was not immediately clear, and an intense effort was underway to recover for the second crew member, the official said, speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss the ongoing operations. So this is where this report is on this downed U.S. military plane on Friday. And then U.S. military jets hit in Iran war was the first time by enemy fire in more than 20 years. So very shocking and sad thing to report for the superpower of the world, where now Iran is emerging as another superpower, where no one has ever thought that they would keep up despite weeks into this war, which was supposed to be over in hours or in 2 or 3 days, and now it's not getting over. Politico has reported Trump asks Congress to supersize military budget / domestic programs. So now President Donald Trump called Friday for Congress to back a $1.5 trillion defense budget alongside yawning reductions to domestic programs, making official the ambitious military increase he's been teasing for months. So what would happen to Medicare? What would happen to Medicaid? What would happen to Social Security? What would happen to all these programs that were put in place with bipartisan support for decades, and now $1.5 trillion? And then as Senator Rand Paul has reported last week that $2 to $3 billion, according to him, $1 to $2 billion, but some experts are saying $2 to $3 billion are being spent every day that could have been spent on education, on infrastructure, improving our roads and bridges and parks, as well as obviously healthcare, and then many other programs like social care. But that's where the politics is these days. The Telegraph has reported Macron hits out at Trump for Bridget insult. So this was obviously something that was interesting because he is not supporting, Macron is not supporting Trump. So now personal attacks have come up, and this is where he basically was asked, and he said that this comment are neither these comments are neither elegant nor up to standard, so I'm not going to respond to them. They do not merit a response. That's what President Macron responded to when he was shoved by his wife. And this is where you can see on the screen in the middle of this screen. And then here is more. During the speech, Mr. Trump, because we appeared on national TV last week, Mr. Trump claimed he had asked Mr. Macron to send French warships to the Gulf, saying he had urged France to deploy vessels, quote, immediately, unquote, but the president had refused, offering instead to help, quote, once the war is won, unquote. So that's the position of France, and then UK and Europe, and NATO is gone as well, because that North Atlantic Treaty Organization was for North Atlantic Treaty Organization, but here is the entire cracks are appearing in terms of that military alliance. Hegseth ousts Army Chief of Staff General Randy George. So one of the sources said Hegseth wants someone on the role who will implement President Trump and Hegseth's vision for the Army. Now, who is this man, Hegseth? Hegseth is a known crusader. Let me say it again. Everyone, all the experts, he even has tattoos, and he has been reported where Senator Tim Kaine, I believe, in the testimony or in his cross-examination, he was asked that why did you go to some bar with the strippers, by the way, allegedly speaking, and he was refusing to basically say yes or no. But it has been reported, and he was asked in this hearing that he said, kill all Muslims. That's what this Secretary of Defense, or now Secretary of War, basically said. So why is he even the Secretary of Defense or War if he is now confirmed by these other people in this hearing that that's what he's advocating for? I mean, if these people want war with Muslims, then America is in big trouble, because can you win the war with more than 2 billion Muslims all over the world, and then you don't even know who is the enemy? So every person who basically walks on the street could be an enemy, because no one is going to be walking by declaring his or her faith. So this is just ridiculous. And that's why many Americans are getting sick and tired of this kind of nonsense that is happening as we speak. But Republicans, the MAGA Republicans, obviously they love him because they are showing their own true colors, because this is the time where we need to put the record on the table. And this war has been the lowest approved war in the history of the United States of America since World War II. Imagine this. So 10 or 20%, maximum 15 to 20% people in all the polls are actually supporting this war. So people are in minority when it comes to this war. So that's why they're, ousting and asking some generals to retire, what have you. And there's more that you can read on this. 100 international law experts signed open letter for expressing, quote, profound concern over the Iran war. It's an illegal war. That's what Senator Bernie Sanders and all the senators who basically are on the right side of history are talking about. This will end up with a ruined country. That's what Iranians react to this bridge strike. And then even Donald Tusk, the Polish prime minister, also criticized Mr. Trump's threat to withdraw from NATO, saying the threat of NATO's breakup, easing sanctions to Russia, a massive energy crisis in Europe, halting for Ukraine, and blocking the loan for Kiev by Orban. It all looks like Putin's dreams plan, unquote. That's what he said. And then Turkish president speaks with NATO chief on Iran and the future of alliance. And there's more on that. And a Tehran psychiatric hospital was damaged by US-Israeli strike on adjacent site. And Italian's Prime Minister Giorgio Meloni visits Qatar and pledges help restoring gas infrastructure. And then in another report, another global waterway is at risk. So there's another waterway called the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, which is another one where now Iran is saying that they will, use that as another chokehold. I hope that doesn't come to that, but let's see. And here is an interesting news. Relative of the late General Soleimani have been arrested. So in his first term, President Trump ordered the strike on General Soleimani when he was at the Baghdad airport. And his General Soleimani's basically was the lead Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force. He was leading that. So his grandniece is now in ICE custody. Now, the grandniece, keep in mind, Hamida Soleimani Afshar and her daughter were arrested after the State Department terminated their green card. So remember, they are here as permanent residents, legal permanent resident. And just because she happens to be the grandniece of General Soleimani, so the ICE, the Department of State, actually they have arrested her, and Afshar's husband is also banned from entering the US. ICE arrests Iran warlord's niece living her best life in Los Angeles. So this is where United States of America is becoming a third world country, where these are the kind of things that happen actually in a third world country. And that's where we just have to keep this at the back of our minds. And then Robert A. Pape, he is one of the author and a political scientist. One of the biggest illusions in war is that powerful states control escalations. That's the escalation trap that he basically wrote. Allies, adversary, and markets. That's what the escalation trap describes. 4 strategic patterns now visible in the Iran war, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. He talks about the escalation trap, tactical success, strategic failure, escalation, more strikes, broader targets, more days of bombing. And then he talks about horizontal escalation, strategic risk, and he goes on in terms of how this will continue to escalate. Smart bombs, regional war, global system shock, and regional attacks, rising domestic costs for allies, pressure on coalition cohesion, and then especially with regards to the sustained attacks on Gulf energy infrastructure, direct military confrontation, invoking additional regional states, and then dispersal or movement of Iranian nuclear material beyond Iran's borders. So the smart bomb trap, and then why air power alone rarely produces regime change. So he made a very strong case. And this disruption obviously is already posing a risk to global economics and global economic shock. Here are the reports of that downed US plane, and then Iranian channels have shown this footage as well. And then some people in Tehran were reported by Metro and other news agencies where they are saying that Iran has to retaliate. They have no right. This infrastructure belongs to the people of Iran because of the attack on the bridge in Karg, and then all the infrastructure. Another person said that it would take years and decades, several years, to get back, to that same level. And some more pictures with regards to Strait of Hormuz, and then this bridge that was destroyed. And then in the end, I would just read these two Truth Social, posts that Donald J. Trump has posted. First, he said, "Remember when I gave Iran 10 days to make a deal or open up the Hormuz Strait? Time is running out, 48 hours before all hell will rain down on them. Glory be to God!" Exclamation mark, President Donald J. Trump. And then in another post on Truth Social, he said, "Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the effing F word straight, you crazy bastards, or you will be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah." President Donald J. Trump. So he's being sarcastic. That's what he's saying. And obviously, these crazy bastards, according to Donald J. Trump, you're messing with the wrong people. They will die, but they will not surrender. Unfortunately, that is the word on the main street. And I hope I'm wrong, but it's easy to start wars, but very difficult to end it. And that's where we are. And I hope that this administration ends this war any moment. That's the best way to basically bring peace to the world. We would like to thank our key advertisers and sponsors, especially Affordable Insurance of Texas, 713-785-4000. That's the number, 713-785-4000. If you need auto insurance, homeowners insurance, commercial insurance, please call them. You can visit their website, aitinsurance.com. That's www.aitinsurance.com. Also, Roop Saudi Palace, you can schedule a virtual tour, and you can call them 832-267-0065, roopsaudi.com. They have a lot of shipments coming in, and also for men, women, grooms, and brides, and for children of all age groups, go to Hillcroft, Roop Saudi Palace, or visit their web address, roopsaudi.com. And also shehnaitexas.com. You can order catering. For catering orders, call 713-953-1388. Talk to Mr. Shahid Ali, or visit shehnaitexas.com. And they have this special all-you-can-eat buffet Monday to Friday, vegetarian $12.99, non-veg $14.99, and takeout buffet $7.99 per pound, as you can see on the screens. 30 plus items, all-you-can-eat buffet. That's a great special for Zishan On Air members and listeners and viewers. Call 713-953-1388. With that, I'm signing off with social media, and we'll continue with the legacy media. And next is Big Baller Sports. Thank you.